of the press. Just as the Director of Communication indicated to you, the main reasons why we have summoned you here or invited you here is to discuss several activities that has gone on in our party and activities that are upcoming. But we cannot just organize a press conference and talk about our internal issues without making reference to national issues. You recall that the New Patriotic Party had to cause a complaint against government-sponsored harassment and persecution of our members. The party held demonstration and numerous press conferences on matter, reminding President John Mahama and his government that we are a nation of rule of law, and asked the NDC government to put a stop on their continuous weaponization of the state security and the judiciary against political opponents. Unfortunately, all our calls have fallen on deaf ears, but as a party, we shall not back down on our resolve to fight this injustice. It is increasingly concerning that the state security agencies continue to flout with impunity the Constitution of Ghana, particularly Article 14, on the grant of bail to persons arrested or detained. Our Constitution requires that persons who are arrested or detained be brought to the court within 48 hours or be released either unconditionally or on reasonable conditions as may be necessary to ensure that they appear at a later date for their trial. Thus, an accused person who is not tried within reasonable time is entitled to bail, irrespective of the nature of the alleged offense. However, friends from the media, you will agree with me that in recent times, certain developments certainly suggest the worrying trend where members of the New Patriotic Party are detained beyond the lawful limit, subjected to unreasonable bail conditions, and effectively denied justice. This practice contravenes Section 96 of the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act at 1960, and the Supreme Court precedents, including one in Oko versus Republic and Matipegu versus Attorney General No. 2, which affirmed that bail should not be punitive or withheld merely as a punishment, and that bail condition must not be unreasonable or onerous so as to amount to a constructive refusal to grant it. This is anchored on the constitutional principle enshrined in Article 19(2)(c) that a person accused of committing an offense shall be presumed innocent until proven guilty. However, under President John Mahama's administration, a person is rather presumed guilty until the person proves his innocence. And this is a shame to our democracy, whereby that the presumption of innocence has now turned into whereby a person is presumed guilty for him or her to prove his or her innocence. We have seen how this government has conducted itself in the Rambo-style arrest and detention of members of the New Patriotic Party. Reference to Chairman Wuntumi, Edubuahe, Abdul Wahab Hanan, Gift Oware, Osesibe, and a host of others. Even more troubling is the perception that the judiciary has been compromised, particularly following the unlawful removal of our Chief Justice, Her Ladyship Justice Araba Tokonu. The New Patriotic Party believe that this has created an atmosphere of fear among judges and undermined judicial independence. For instance, how can a judge, in the face of the law and the constitutional principle of presumption of innocence, set bail conditions for one accused person to the tune of 800 million Ghana cedis? To the tune of 800 million Ghana cedis, which is even more double the amount the state spent in the construction of Jubilee House. Double the construction of Jubilee House, 800 million Ghana cedis. This is indeed very ridiculous. Doesn't this effectively amount to denial of bail, which the law speaks against? Judges generally, under His Excellency John Mahama administration, fear to dispense justice according to the law, because they fear that they may also suffer the same fate as Justice Tokonu. Judges are now telling us that we are not equal before the law, and are even quoting dictators like Idi Amin of Uganda to justify the unlawful detentions of citizens in our democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, even more worrying is that today we have an Attorney General and Minister of Justice, the person of Honorable Dominic Ayine, who has turned himself into a court of competent jurisdiction and pronouncing accused person guilty even before he takes them to court, or when their matter is pending before the court. He holds media trial, makes prejudicial statements, violating his oath of office and legal professions rules, which governs the conduct of all lawyers, and nobody is able to call him to order, not even the judiciary. It is a shame for our democracy. You have a minister, a lawyer, who knows better that before a person is accused, arraigned before a court, trial done, judgment passed, there's what we refer to as presumption of innocence. But Attorney General would rather prefer to go to the media and pronounce an accused person guilty. We have a young gentleman referred to as lawyer Kosi Butch Jr., who made some statement, and a sitting judge could go ahead and threaten him that if he makes any further statement in the media, he will cite this young lawyer for contempt of court. But however, we have lawyer Dominic Ayine, who makes prejudicial statements, and yet our judges have not commented on this. And indeed, the animal farm is working under His Excellency John Mahama's administration. The Attorney General and Minister for Justice appears to only be good at filing nolli prosequi to free his political cronies and NDC members who are standing trial for allegedly stealing huge sums of money from the state. The Attorney General has, in the past 8 months, entered nolli prosequi in not less than 10 cases, resulting in the nation losing millions of dollars of allegedly stolen monies by cronies of the NDC or members of the NDC. But however, it is very interesting that the Attorney General can file nolli prosequi to free members of his party and cronies who were standing trial under the elsewhere administration, but rather is interested in prosecuting members of the New Patriotic Party. In fact, if the Attorney General means well for this country, certainly who have allowed the cases that were before court of NDC members to have proceeded without filing nolli prosequi. Indeed, this is totally political witch hunt and persecution. It is also worth noting that His Excellency John Mahama administration has become extremely intolerant of dissent and is bent on using state institutions to clamp down on all critical voices in the country. We are witnessing a gradual return to the era of culture of silence. The police, under His Excellency Mahama administration, are more interested in arresting and persecuting social media activists such as Facebookers and TikTokers for allegedly insulting public officials or posting disparaging remarks about government officials, rather than fighting insecurity in our country. This level of selective justice and intolerance for dissent is eroding public confidence in Ghana's democracy and judicial system. They are targeted for expressing dissenting opinions on social media is a dangerous reversal of our democratic gains. If you take away these media trials going on, let's turn our attention to Galamsey. We have a government which came into power on the strength of coming to fight Galamsey, which to them, the NPP administration failed to tackle. You will recall that during His Excellency Nadankwa administration, we reached out to our friends, then opposition party NDC, that let's all sit together as one people. Let's have a clearly defined roadmap, devoid of politics, to fight this Galamsey menace. In the words of the NDC, they said they are not in government. It is we, the NPP, who were voted for. And we have the state security, we have the state institutions to fight Galamsey. And we should fight Galamsey. And they have no role to play. The table has turned. The NDC is in government now. They have state security. They have state institutions. They have overwhelming support, even from the judiciary. But what is the state of Galamsey in our country now? And any reasonable person in this country will know that the state of Galamsey is even worse than it was in the NPP administration. And it is clear that Galamsey has become worse under this administration because we have members of parliament who belong to the NDC. We have national officers from the NDC through to the region, to the constituencies, and even their branch who are involved in Galamsey. And it's not surprising that the security agencies are struggling to deal with that issue, because when they make efforts, they are threatened by powers that be in this government. But for us as a New Patriotic Party, because we care so much about this country and we mean well for this country, our doors are always open. If His Excellency President John Mahama sees the need and the wisdom to reach out to us, for us to have a proper roundtable discussion to combat these manners once and for all, the New Patriotic Party would gladly welcome such an invitation for us to address the issue of Galamsey. But from the way of things are going, it is clear that His Excellency John Mahama has failed in the fight against Galamsey. So, ladies and gentlemen, that will be one part of our press discussions with you.